Whether your beer is in a bottle, can, or glass, kick back and relax. It's Better on Draft.
How about that? Starting the show with my mic muted. Hello and welcome to Better on Draft, episode 383. My name is Rob. With me today is Wendy. Hey, Wendy, what are you drinking?
I am drinking a Brewery Vivant Tangerine Farmhand.
Nice. So is that a Saison? I always hope for these things.
It is a farmhouse ale brewed with tangerine.
Excellent.
Coming in at 6.5%, if you're wondering.
I today have an Upland Wheat, which is an ale with orange zest. It's a beautiful wheat color.
So apparently we are both feeling the summer or the winter blues and
Yes.
needed some citrus to liven up our lives.
Yep, it is that time of year. It's stout season, but you kind of need a cozy fire or something.
That's kind of the way I feel too. I know everybody's like, oh, stouts don't taste as good in the summer, but I don't think that's true, for one. And for two, I'm always looking for something that reminds me of being on vacation when I'm stuck at home in the wintertime.
Yeah, I think that's part of it too. Yeah, I really have just been feeling something light recently. Because of a scheduling mishap. It was kind of a scheduling wonderful thing. I had 2 nights of trivia at Books and Brews. So I did bike there, even though I think the highs were around 20 the past couple of days. Did bike there and back and drank mostly M43.
Yeah, that's a good beer. Nice choice.
Yeah, there was a couple of heavy nights of drinking, so wheat seems right today.
Right. See, now I feel wheat is kind of heavier than some of the other beers.
I think it sits heavier, but it has less alcohol usually.
That's true.
Yeah. As people may have noticed, we do not have a guest today. So we are going to do a news show and talk about, we got a couple other topics lined up too. I'll go ahead and get us started with a news article. This was one that we didn't get to on our last news show, but I'm quite interested in, and it is from the Beervana blog titled Why Legacy Breweries Fail. And the premise of the article is wonderful. It was a reader suggestion for the writer of this blog, who I follow and read their stuff pretty regularly. I do recommend them. They have very good writing and very insightful and in-depth articles when they put them together. But it was a reader suggestion based primarily on the recent closure of Rogue. But I thought there were some interesting things in there. So they first defined legacy breweries, pointing out that they're relatively young in the US, from the 80s, the 90s, and maybe the 2000s. Does that make you feel old? Thinking that, like,
a little bit,
right? Because Budweiser's forever old.
A little bit, but it doesn't really, because if you look at just the history of the world compared to the history of the United States, we're such a baby. True. When it comes to everything. Like, people are like, oh, the history is amazing, and it's like 100-year-old building. And then you go to Europe and it's like 2,000-year-old buildings. So
it's drinking in a pub older than your country, which is really
right.
Cool.
It literally, like, I guess when you put it in perspective like that, it makes me feel less old.
Right. Yeah. Yuengling being our oldest brewery in the country, and it's, well, I don't remember when it was founded, but it's pretty old for this country. Anyway, so they define the legacy ones as the brands that we know basically from the 80s, 90s, and the aughts. And so what the author, I wish I had gotten their name, I'm sure it's in here. What the author was pointing out was that some of the legacy breweries are unrecognizable from what they were originally. And so some examples would be New Belgium, which had Fat Tire, as their flagship beer, and then it
And
went
all the
away, and there's some new fat tire came out, which is totally different from the old fat tire, but they're pushing harder on Voodoo Ranger than they are on fat tire. So they've just changed with the times. They're pretty much unrecognizable from what they were back in. I remember drinking them in the aughts. Sierra Nevada, they still have wonderful. Uh, um, what is it? Pale Ale is still a wonderful beer, and Torpedo and all those. They still make them, but they are pushing the hazy little things a lot in that series. So they look fairly different, or at least have a different line with them, but they still would be considered a legacy one. And then you compare that to Rogue with Dead Guy. Was their flagship outside of Oregon. Apparently, within Oregon, it wasn't particularly popular. But then they went to those weird flavors of Dead Guy. There was a pale ale and an amber and something else. I can't remember what all there were, but it just felt kind of incoherent. And then they just called them all Dead Guy. So it was a totally different take on them rebranding themselves or rebranding that thing. Another thing that the author pointed out is that the style taste around the country is different now than it was in the aughts and the 90s. The aughts when in the teens is when we had the IPA wars with all the ridiculous hops and getting the IBUs up as high as you possibly could and all that. Now we're still in a haze craze to some degree. I feel like that's lessening, but it's still out there.
You'll get my opinion on that later, but yes, I agree with that.
Right. So, I'm not sure where it's going now. We'll talk about that later too. But to a lot of degree, the tastes of the consumers are different now than they were 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Completely understandable. And so, right. One example I have for that, the Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, for example, they just won gold at GABF in the ESB category with their Pale Ale. And that, of course, has purists upset out of this, ancient traditional style of ESB, which has been around since, I think, the 70s. But 1969 was when the ESB first started existing. But then the Sierra Nevada Pale Ale won gold for it, and it does tick all the boxes on the style guide for judging. We'll have to have a show on judging. So it's not like the judge's fault. It's not Sierra Nevada's fault for entering it as an ESB. It's just an interesting thing that kind of, I don't know, it might point out that there's too many styles and too much overlap if these different things can be different things.
That's true. I think that can be said for a lot of different styles for sure.
Yeah. Porter and stout is one of those that is, they get kind of confused, and kind of understandably. Okay, and so then the article, he goes on and starts looking at potential future legacy breweries. So they listed a few of them. They listed Ninkasi, which is not one I'm familiar with. Do you know much about Ninkasi?
I do not.
Yeah. So it might be more of they're in the Pacific Northwest, so it might be more up there. But they pointed out that their flagship beer is Total Domination, and it has changed to a lighter, drier body beer to appeal to more modern tastes. And I think that we're seeing a lot of that as well, moving away from like the IPAs and back into traditional styles. They also suggested Deschutes could be a future legacy brewery, and I would get behind that. They have been dominating pretty well. They have that huge partnership with Costco, Like the Kirkland Vintage Ale is done by Deschutes, and I think a couple other beers are as well. And then Breakside, and I've been to Breakside in Portland. They were interesting. They had preset flights, and it was either 9 or 12. I can't remember. It was a huge number, and it came like in basically a pool rack but square of taster flights. So just crammed in there, and so you were drinking out of that. But they have a flagship IPA, and it's continuing to evolve. And I just kind of ask, is that a flagship IPA, or is that just a name? Is that just
Right.
they're using the same name and saying, okay, well, now we're doing different flavors in it. So I guess Bell's is kind of getting there. Like, we know what Two Hearted is, but now there's Red Hearted and Black Hearted and Light Hearted, Hazy Hearted.
Right.
So they're all different beers, and obviously so, but they're all in that Hearted series, which I hope they keep going with it, because I do quite enjoy the Black IPA that they have out right now in the experimental is really good.
I've heard that quite a bit. I know they've had the Black Hearted. I actually bought it just for the cap because I needed it for my Detroit Draft Divas tiara that I'm making.
Nice.
But so the difference, I think, between what Bell's is doing with the Hearted series is that they're taking something that was extremely popular and they're making variations on it, as opposed to changing Two Hearted.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah,
You know,
it is different. I would want I don't know anything about Breakside and their flagship IPA. I drank there forever and ever ago. I might even be confusing it with a different brewery in Portland. But if it's just the name that's staying the same and the recipe keeps changing,
that's
don't
not
know.
flagship.
Yeah, right. Okay. We're in agreement.
So I 100% feel that way. I actually didn't mind the new version of Flat Tire. I thought it was good. I didn't think it was that big of a deal, especially if their sales had been going down on Flat Tire.
Yeah.
But I do feel that if you're going to have a flagship beer, you keep that flagship beer, even if you only you don't make it as often, or you don't push it and you start pushing a different beer. I remember one time I was really excited about a beer that was being made at Perrin. They had talked about what this beer was going to be. Something happened in the brewing process and it came out not the way it was supposed to.
Mm.
And instead of calling it something different and putting that out, they put it out under that name and said, we'll fix it next time. Well, they never made that batch again. They never made another version of it. And the people, like, I bought it ahead of time because I was so excited for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was disappointed because they very well could have just called it something else, because it wasn't a bad beer. It just wasn't what we were expecting when we bought it.
Right.
So yeah. I kind of feel like that was a marketing error.
Yeah, it sounds like it. It sounds like, sometimes things just don't quite work out and you gotta make a change. Yeah.
So, and I think that's kind of the case with this. If you're going to change your flagship beer, okay, just call it something else. Don't.
Yeah. So if we liken it to Fat Tire, and it kind of, so they reformulated it. It came back as I can't remember if they even marketed that it was new, but it did go away for a little while, I feel like. But even then, it was no longer their flagship. The Voodoo Ranger series.
Voodoo Ranger had already taken over.
Yeah, it was kind of it.
And that's kind of a big trend with a lot of these legacy breweries too, is like the Hearted series, the Voodoo Ranger in 15 different flavors. There's another one that just did that. Oddside's good for that too.
Yes.
Like the Dank series has like 30 different flavors.
Right.
Now, I'll be honest, with Oddside, I really like the Dank series. So if I see a new flavor, I'm gonna pick it up.
Right.
And I'm
Yeah.
sure if I was a huge fan of Voodoo Ranger, I would do the same. I mean, I kind of still do. It's not my first priority, but I do. If I see something, a Voodoo Ranger I haven't had before, I'll pick it up and try it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the last time I consciously chose a Voodoo Ranger, like there were a bunch of beers options available, it was because of a drinking project that was going on and it fit the category.
Right.
So many breweries get business from me because of that.
Yes, that's probably true.
Mm.
Well, Voodoo Ranger gets my attention a lot of times because if I'm going to a party and I stop someplace that doesn't have a lot of options. If they have the 22 ounce of the Voodoo Ranger, I'll grab that.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a convenient packaging, and it's good that they at least have that out there as an option too. So unrelated or not in the article, but kind of an exercise, if you will. Are there breweries you can think of that you would want to become or you feel like are on their way to becoming legacy breweries that you're familiar with? Like I already have one written down, so I can go first, but I feel like Upland kind of has that ability. They've done a couple of expansions. They just expanded to Colorado, but they had some agreements in, I want to say South Carolina, it might have been North Carolina, and they might still, I think it might just be strong partnerships and collaborations. But I feel like Upland could do that. And that would be interesting if that lets them keep doing their sour program, because they just need more market to buy those sours, basically.
Right. So here in Michigan, I could see Shorts continuing
Mm-hmm.
in that trajectory because I mean here they are one of our legacy breweries.
Yeah, I guess Bells and Founders too.
Yeah, I guess I already consider those legacy breweries.
I would do too.
So, another one by you would be Sun King. I could see them.
Yeah, they are exactly who my second choice would be, or second thought would be. And they do have a facility in Florida because one of the owners or major investors or something retired there. And so they opened, so there are two places they can distribute now, Indiana and Florida.
Right. I'm trying to think of.
I guess Rheingeist is starting to build up that way. Speaking of which, I had Truthadelic on tap at Books and Brews last night, and that is really good. So it's not truth and it's not knowledge. It's somewhere above knowledge. If you are familiar with the Rheingeist IPA series,
I'm trying to think of some of the ones that we get here.
yeah, I don't think you get Taxman there.
We do
feel
that.
like if they could up their production, they have their staples are the Belgian, basically double, triple, quad, and then they've got essentially a farmhouse is their other. I guess it would fit in the single part of that.
Right.
But that's just that's beer styles a lot of people like that, but you don't see on store shelves all that often.
Yes, I agree with that. Not enough, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I kind of like them because they go in numeric order. You know what you're getting. Like, I just feel like a double today.
Right.
It's been a long day. I want a quad.
So I also think breweries like WeldWorks,
Yeah.
if they're not at that legacy status already, they are on that in that direction. I would love to see breweries like Batch Brewing out of Corktown. I could see them moving in that direction, just because of the way that they evolve the beer styles that they're making, and just, man, they've been making some phenomenal beer lately. And then, I'm sorry, I just got really quiet. There's another one. There's another one out of Chicago that I was thinking of. I can't remember.
Yeah. Is it Unane? Because I feel like
Which
they
one?
would Unane.
No.
They're also Hubbard's Cave. I feel like they don't have the production space, or last I checked, they don't have the production space, but they are making some great stuff. I just didn't feel like their portfolio was wide. It was a lot of so Unane does the hazies and a lot of other I wouldn't say hazy styles, but interesting lighter style beers. And Hubbard's Cave, it's the same brewery. They mostly do the stouts and that type of style of beer. They're a great visit if you're ever in Chicago and anywhere near Unane. I would recommend stopping by.
I'll have to get over there. Other breweries that I can think of that would go in that direction just because of the fervor that I've heard around their beer is Parish Brewing. They're the ones that do Goes to the Machine.
Okay. I recognize the name, but yeah.
Yeah, they're everything I've ever had from them is phenomenal. And then I totally just did it again.
That's right. It'll come to you at the most
I know. It'll come to me in the middle of the next story, and then I'll be like,
right.
oh, wait, I want to talk about that again.
Right. I think that we're actually starting to get into some of the topics I wanted to bring up in a later bit. So,
well, then let's move on.
Let's move on. Yeah. And so with that, we're moving on to, well, we'll do the topic, some predictions and things we want for 2026.
Okay.
The one that I thought was kind of coming into what I was going to predict, this is such a huge prediction. I'm really going out on a limb and saying there will be more consolidation.
For sure.
Right. So yeah, but I think we're going to start seeing the consolidated flagship portfolio shrinking to where when you have those bigger conglomerates, so we're starting to get the one, which I've just lost their name, Dark Horse is
yes,
parent, but like that big conglomerate, they have several brands in there now. And last I checked, they were still making all of the flagships, but then a lot of those are the same market segment as far as flavors and consumer goes. So I just think that we're going to start seeing, those winnow down. And I'm not picking on them specifically. I just think it's going to be kind of a trend that we start seeing or not seeing, just because we won't see the beers out there. They'll just be silently withdrawn.
Right.
So, and I feel like Canarchy, which is now Monster Energy, I think that they have already started that process a fair bit. We saw that with them closing the Cigar City production facility and just moving all the stuff out of there. And so Cigar City, I don't know if their brew pub, they still do, smaller brews for the brew pub. I'm not sure, but I don't know if we're going to ever get Hunapu, distributed widely.
Didn't they start making Hunapu and over in Grand Rapids at Perrin?
Oh, I would not be surprised. Yeah, that would be.
I thought I heard that they had started doing that a while ago. Anyway,
okay, so maybe they'll pull that one out. And then Highlight. There were a few highlights available.
Maybe it was Highlight, not Hunapu.
Okay.
Highlight is the one that they were making at Grand Rapids.
Okay. Well, that would make sense. Yeah. That's one that at least has some shelf, and it starts with a J, so it's really good for me in February when I do the alphabet game.
So speaking of Hunapu, that is kind of one of my predictions, is that I think that with all the changes in the market since COVID, the beer chasers, the ones who are looking for the next new beer release, the next big thing, they seem to have set their sights on other things, whether it's whiskey, bourbon, tequila, all those other things that are now super posh to be chasing after. I think that we're going to see a lot less of those big releases.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean we'll see less of them. It doesn't mean we won't necessarily see those beers again. I just think we'll see them more as seasonal releases without the big, huge parties and festivals involved around it. Because it's so expensive to do an event like that when they aren't getting the numbers that they used to.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I feel like we've seen that loss of chasing for a while. That might be just my lived experience instead of, any market research or anything. But it does feel like there are fewer of those release notices out on Facebook and such like there used to be. So,
I don't know if there's fewer releases because I've got like 4 orders out right now for seasonal releases that I have to go and pick up the beer. But it was like the Kunin's one that they just did, the winter solstice. They do all that in-house, so it's not like they're having a huge event where they have to get tents and stuff like that, like the Hunapao Fest. Am I saying that right? I feel like I'm not saying it right. Hunapao. Hunapao, I don't know.
Hunapu, I don't know.
That type of festival.
Yeah.
Even our beer festivals, and here the Michigan Brewers Guild just announced the dates for their 2026 festivals, and their summer beer festival is only one day this year. They'd already taken the Detroit Festival down to one day. Now they're taking the Summer Beer Festival down to one day, and that was a huge festival. So I think really that it's the event around it is what we're going to see less of, and it's more of a, hey, come here and pick this up when you want to do it, and they'll have like an in-house party.
Yeah. Well, we know how excited the Kunin brewery people were about their festival too. So that one sounds
work at all to do that.
Yeah, no kidding. But that one sounds like it's like they're great and excited to release beers and things, but that just sounded like a party.
Yeah.
So they were I don't see that release going anywhere. It's just like their party. But
so,
and the Dark Lord ticket dates were announced recently. So if people are interested, you can go to Dark Lord Day, and I think that's .com. I'm sure you can Google it, like Signetti. But you can get to the Dark Lord stuff to find those dates. I don't have them handy, but they were recently announced when the tickets would go on sale. But that's a big release, but it's also just a gigantic party. It's a music festival.
I need to make it there before it dies down. I know that the big hype of it has already died down, but
I think now, Dark Lord and the chasing of it, I don't think is as it was, but the metal festival among people who like metal, I think is still pretty big.
I tried to get tickets to that like 4 years in a row. 4 years in a row, we had like 4 of us trying to get tickets and we couldn't get them. So I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
I gave up at that point. I'm like, I'm through with you. But it is one of my bucket list festivals to go to.
I was looking at it more. I don't think I'm going this year either, but they do have shuttles to town and back. So there looks like there's some pretty reasonable options for going there, staying in Munster, and getting out to the festival and back. So, and it looked like it was 4 or 5 pools of tickets, depending on when you wanted to pick up your beer. So you get a window of time to pick up your beer.
So what's your next prediction?
Sure. I think the average ABV will go lower still. And we've been seeing that trend. I think that trend is going to continue. Kind of with it, I think we're going to see more of the, I'm going to say traditional styles, maybe less experimenty stuff, just more beers that people can consider almost comfort beers, but then they can consume a few of in a day and not be bloated or full.
Right.
So I like alt beer. I think that will make a bit of a comeback.
Yes.
Making Ken very happy.
We did have that. I did see that article that was going around that was praising all things alt beer, and I thought that was hilarious, because I actually do. If I go to a brewery and they have an alt beer out, I will probably get it.
Yeah. I was drinking a bunch of red ales last weekend, and just trying all the red ales, and surprisingly, there were a lot of them available at the places I was. So it's just some of those, and that's maybe less of a traditional style. I'm thinking more like pilsners and kolsches and alt beers and
Yes,
ambers, things like that would be. I think we're going to see more of those. More like, I guess, plain style might be the way.
Yeah.
And we might see limes or things in them too, but I don't think
all
we'll
the
see as
fancy
much.
apples.
Yes.
Oh, that brings me into my next. Well, it's not my
Okay, yeah.
It's not my prediction. It's a prediction that I heard, and I 100% back it. So I don't know if you guys follow the beer aficionado. It's Doug Velicky from Revolution Brewing. He did a whole post about apple beer. And he believes that we are going to see more apple items based on the popularity and the fervor of Busch Light apple, because it's a seasonal beer and you can only get it so often. So, like, as soon as it came out, they were gone off the shelves. And other breweries have started to notice that and are like, well, we can fill this apple vacancy. So he called it the Apple Gap, which I thought was nice. But he used actually Short's Light Lager, their Honeycrisp, as an example, that they made an apple lager, and they made a lager with apple in it. And they did a lot of, like, you get a lot of the backstory of the history of why they used that particular apple. But he also expects that hard ciders are going to continue to get its mojo back. We'll see a lot more of those, and they'll be a lot more popular. And then we're going to get like apple teenies and apple spritzes and stuff like that in the RTD categories. So his prediction was apple as a flavor is going to get that uptick across a variety of products because of that apple, the hard to getness. I don't think that's the right term.
Right.
The scarcity of that Busch Light apple that was so exciting. Now, I don't know about you, but my friends and I all called it Blapple.
It makes sense.
So when it first came out, I was doing that I was participating in that chug group a lot, and they all called it Blapple, and I don't think it's a good chugging beer because it's too carbonated.
Yeah, that's tricky.
So I think that the best chugging beers are ones that are less carbonated.
Right, like a stout.
But I also am curious, though, because they also have the Busch Light Peach. Have you had the peach?
I have not. I haven't had the apple either.
I think the peach is better than the apple.
Okay.
But they're both really sweet, so it's not like I'm going to sit around all day drinking either of them.
Yeah.
So, but I had to bring that up because everything he said made perfect sense. He talked about Yingling, like, stealthily did a brewery-only release of an apple lager. So he's like, keep an eye on that. You're going to see a lot more apple this year, which I think 100% makes sense, especially here in Michigan, because we get a lot of apple items.
Sun King's Gen Con beer this last year was Core Strategy, a Sizer. So it's an apple beer. And it was really good. It was not particularly sweet. It was more beer than cider, but there was apple flavor in it. It was really good. I picked up a few of those, in fact. quite enjoyed that. And then not the same, but I did have garage beer lime yesterday.
I have not had the lime, but I assume that it tastes a lot like Bud Light lime.
I would say there's not much lime in it. It's just enough to be refreshing. It's not
Okay.
not
So better than Bud Light lime,
yeah, better
which
than
I expected. I you know that I find garage beer funny because they tag it on as beer flavored beer, and I'm like, but your style is for the least flavored beer.
right.
Like
Right.
your style's goal is to have the least amount of flavor.
It was my after bike ride beer. It was just kind of perfect, basically hydrating
Yeah.
beer flavored water.
Yeah. To this day, I believe that every beer has its time and place. I
Yes.
remember whitewater rafting and having a Keystone Light, and I thought it was the best beer I'd ever had in my life
Yeah.
because I'd been on the water all day and it was crazy. I almost died twice, but
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
in
And
the
that,
bus and they gave you a beer and you're like, oh, this is amazing. And then you
especially if it
tried
was cold.
again. You tried again 6 months later and you're like, this is disgusting. Why am I drinking it?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, man, I hear that. Yep. Every beer has their time and place.
Yes.
I never finished writing the others, but I wonder where those words went. I had something that was more of a hope than a prediction. Oh, well, I know one of them is that I want to see more single serve options come available, whether those are tall
Yes.
boys. Um, and what started this is my local liquor store, who I would prefer to visit, to spend money there, shop local, and all that. Even though it's an Indiana chain at this point, but the local one used to be a great craft beer store. Used to have wonderful singles section. They would just break up a bunch of their packs, but they stopped doing that, and now they have much less craft beer than they used to have as well. So I'm not so happy with them. And I go to Total Wine, which is kind of a compromise. But it's so good. They're so good. Like Total Wine has plenty of singles out there. But I would
I
like to
think their
see.
singles are okay. Like I'm not I I don't go to Total Wine a whole lot. One, because it's not a quick drive for me. It's definitely a destination. Like that's not true. When I would go to the farmer's market, I would be able to stop at Total Wine because it was nearby. But
It's a
when I go for
stop
their
along
singles,
a. It's a stop along a trip,
yes. When I go to Total Wine, it's usually because I know they'll have something that I need.
right?
Usually because I've looked it up on a beer finder and I go there. And while I'm there, I go through all their singles.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
actually just went there recently because I wanted Schlafly
Mm,
because I had that oatmeal stout and I was like, damn, that was delicious. I want another one.
yeah.
And all they had at Total Wine was the Christmas ale. I was very disappointed.
Oh, that's too bad.
But whatever, I'll figure it out. We'll get some more
Yeah.
here somewhere.
We've
But
got cons. It's on the other side of Indy, which it sounds like Indy's not that big. The other side of Indy really shouldn't be that far for me. But when Total Wine is really just down the street, like I could bike to Total Wine. The trick would be biking back with all that beer.
right.
So cons is a little farther for me, but they have a good singles game. And they will have some of the large format bombers that I would like to see those coming back. I know that they are dwindling. Schlafly was just telling us that like they're large format beers, they just don't sell, so they're not making them that way.
Yeah. I really don't think a lot of people are drinking them in that fashion. Now, Goose Island, I did buy all of my BCBS in the big bottles.
Okay,
I
I
did
did
not
get
buy
a
any of the little ones.
I did get a 4-pack of the little bottles, so I'm not helping my case here. But I
I
did get some big bottles too.
I was very disappointed when No Rules switched to the cans.
Mhm.
Not necessarily because I'm, I don't even know how to put that. Because I feel like once I drink it, I want a second glass.
Yeah.
So then I have to open a second can, which
Right.
means I have to buy more, and I don't want to do that. But if I buy the bomber, I don't have to share it with anybody. I can sit at home, have 2 glasses of beer, and be good.
and the nice thing with those, you open the bomber, you pour yourself a glass of beer, and it's going to be a good beer. But then that bomber has warmed up, and it's going to be a better beer.
Yes, I agree 100%. Oh,
As long as we're talking about stouts and things like that, stouts and quads and
right.
delicious beers
Well,
like
there's
that.
always a refrigerator for the other ones. Well, I don't.
Yes.
I guess I don't know that I've ever bought a different style in a bomber. Maybe a sour. Sour I've gotten in bigger beer in the bigger
the
bottles.
Schlafly Beer to Guard that came in a bomber size, and I think Tank 7 used to, but it's now in the smaller bottles.
Yes. So one of the other things that I've noticed recently, in my travels, because I do like IPAs. I call myself hop timid because I do like hops. I don't like punch you in the face hops, which was always something I had a hard time with IPAs before the hazies came out.
Yeah.
Is that I felt like they were too bitter. They were like smack you down, make you want to rip your tongue out, that kind of hops.
Right.
And
palate records.
Yes. So what I have noticed recently is that while they still have hazy IPAs on their board, the hazy IPAs are much more tame than the original hazy, the original New Englands were, which is something that I've always said about. Why can't I think?
Are you going to get into an East Coast versus West Coast?
No, the original New England.
Oh, Heady Topper.
Heady Topper. Heady Topper always had that, still had that pungent bitterness of the hops.
I really had them like once or twice.
And the unfiltered. So like the first time I reviewed Heady Topper, I was like, if you like hazy beers, this one probably isn't necessarily for you. But it was because I was looking at it as this is much more pungent than the orange juice, much more tamer versions that we see today.
Yeah.
It's definitely a style that has evolved, and you still get a little bit of the hot flavor, but it's not like punch you in the face.
Yeah.
So, but what I've realized over the last few months and over the last year or so in my travels is that you're seeing a lot more American IPAs. You're seeing a lot more West Coast IPAs, especially here on the East Coast, where we've got a lot of people putting on West Coast IPAs now.
Yeah.
I don't think that
we're in
they're
the North Coast or the Third Coast.
Yes. It's really, though, in my opinion, the East Coast, West Coast, the East Coast doesn't do West Coast IPAs the same way that West Coast IPAs, the West Coast does.
Understandable.
I really feel like I didn't understand the flavor style until I went to the West Coast and had IPAs over there. And then I was like, oh, this is way smoother than we get by us.
Right.
So, and again, that was during the time, though, where they were like, the IBUs, they were searching for the most bitter, that style.
A lot of the West Coast ones, though, they still had some body to the beer.
Yes.
And then the other ones, it was all aroma hops. There was nothing else going on. It was just aroma hops.
Yes. So what I have noticed, though, is we're seeing a lot more West Coast and American IPAs. They're not as over the top as they used to be.
Yeah.
They definitely have a lot more flavor than they used to, not just smack you with the bitterness.
Right. Yeah, it's a good trend. Wendy's got a bit of a cough. It's a good trend.
So, but yeah, we're seeing they're starting to change the versions of IPAs that we're seeing.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to see a lot more. We're going to see that more often throughout the next year.
Yeah, I wonder if that's just kind of the vibe that I was trying to describe before, where things are getting gentler, lower ABV, and simpler flavors and all that. I wonder if that's just where we are. And that's fine. The envelope was pushed. We found edges, found, that people will keep chasing to find what their tolerance is. It's like hot sauce. Maybe
Right.
now it's just all shrinking back into, a nice little box.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing.
I don't want hazies to disappear completely because I do really enjoy them, but I also like the variety when I go places to be able to try different things, just not the same beers over and over again.
Right. When you get a flight of hazies, they all look the same. They all taste pretty close. There's definitely a sameness. The hops, especially the aromas and finishing hops, that will change it a little, but it's just a little. It's not that.
So my prediction is that our IPAs are going to get a little bit clearer over the next year.
Okay. I think that'd be good too.
All right. You had a question about non-alcoholic beers that I thought was very...
This came up recently on the Untapped Discord server as a conversation. I think it's worth kind of hashing it out, especially where no one's going to argue with me. Well, Wendy might argue with me, but non-alcoholic versions of a style. Does that even make sense? Because beer judging style guidelines do have ABV as part of the style guidelines. So what would for example, a double IPA that's non-alcoholic, what does that mean? And how would an app like Untapped solve this problem? That's where the conversation came.
I guess, what do you mean? How do you need to solve it? What do you need to solve it? Like, where is this being applied?
So specifically in Untapped or something along those lines, do we need non-alcoholic IPA double? Do we need non-alcoholic bitters extra special? Like, does there need to be an NA of every style of beer? And does that even track? Like, is that consistent with what a style is?
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not, because your ABV is a big part of your style, in my opinion. I guess I don't know that you would need one for every style. I would log it in as a non-alcoholic beer, and then, because when you're logging it in, it doesn't matter what the style is.
No,
unless you're going for a badge for that particular style.
Right. If you're chasing wheel styles or something, right. Then I guess it technically matters. Does it inform you? I guess, okay, so if we look at Athletic, they have a non-alcoholic pale ale, a non-alcoholic lager, I think. Maybe a couple other, they definitely have a couple other non-alcoholic styles. But how deep into the weeds does that need to get? So we just had a pale ale win as an ESB. Do we need a non-alcoholic ESB? Is that different from a non-alcoholic pale ale?
I don't know how to answer that.
Yeah, it might just be one of those questions that's left out there, but
I guess the only person that would really care about that is the person who is only drinking non-alcoholic beer.
Yeah, to try to get different flavors or figure out what they like out of the flavors.
And do we have enough faction of people who are only drinking non-alcoholic beer that want to track what they're drinking?
Right. And are they playing silly badge games like on Untapped?
Right. I do love the badges. That was always my favorite part of Untapped, was that we were going to get a new badge.
It's the big draw. One suggestion that was put forth on the server, I won't take credit for it, but I've had a similar suggestion for barrel-aged things as well. But one suggestion was that the styles exist, and they exist in BJCP, and maybe it needs to be expanded a little bit because BJCP is slower or what have you. But the styles exist, and then tag the beer itself to say it's non-alcoholic, to say it's barrel aged, to say it's um, I don't know. There are some other ones like nitro, things like that.
I mean, technically that's true because non-alcoholic isn't the style.
Right. It's usually the anti-style.
Right.
It would break it.
The style would be IPA, the non-alcoholic would be the non-alcoholic would be the ABV. So I mean, technically, in the case of Untapped and those types of apps, I would see it that way. In the case of beer judging, I don't know that I would.
Yeah, beer judging, that gets interesting. Alcohol definitely has a flavor, but our beer judges tend to know what they're doing. But like, if it's a 4% style, like if it's supposed to be 4%, and the non-alcoholic is doing its job, would they be able to taste the difference? Like, judging should be about the taste of the thing. The way it looks and the way it feels and stuff factors into it too. The type of head it holds, all of that, the bubbles that are in it. ABV is the one like quality there that it's tough to. Maybe judges out there can taste a beer and say this is a 5.3 ABV, but I don't know that that's being done.
Right. I don't know that you could actually do that. But
yeah.
I mean, I would assume like you can tell the difference between a 4% beer though and an 8% beer.
Usually you can. We've all had those beers where we drink them and say, "Whoa, I did not realize this was so strong."
Right.
And then we've had those other ones that we say, "Yeah, there's a lot of alcohol in this one." It's usually a barrel. Anyway, I thought it was an interesting discussion. I only got to catch the tail end because I had to work that day. But I saw that they were discussing it for quite a while, and I thought it was interesting. And I regretted not being able to participate, but now I have.
It is definitely something to think about, especially if you are somebody who follows all the Untapped games and is chasing badges. I haven't chased a badge in a long time, but I do plan on playing the alphabet game this year.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, that's coming up.
So I know I've already started looking. I left Total Wine the other day and went to my beer store because I knew they would have stuff that I would want to do reviews on and things. So and my
reviews.
My local beer store actually does let us do singles still.
Okay.
And honestly, that's the reason I still go there because they're not the closest beer store to me.
Yeah.
And I have a couple of them by me that have a really good selection, but I can only buy them in 4-packs. So I tend to go where I can get a single and see, do I like this beer before I commit to the whole thing.
Right.
Because if I buy a 4-pack, I'm drinking all 4, whether I like it or not. So...
Yeah, I've been there too. Because there is a time and a place for every beer.
Yes, that is 100% true.
Yeah, sometimes
and there is a beer for everyone, whether they like beer or not. I 100% believe that.
That's right. Sometimes that time and place is cooking.
True story. Yeah. Though I was told, I don't remember which chef it was, one of the TV chefs that I follow along with said, don't cook with a beer you won't drink.
Yeah, I've heard that with wine and stuff too.
Yeah.
Luckily, I drink most beers and wines.
Right.
Not that picky.
I'm pretty lenient when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Except, so you brought up Two Hearted the other day. I'm not a fan of Two Hearted. I don't. It's not my favorite beer.
Yeah, it's that hop in your face thing.
My uncle keeps offering me one every day. He comes home and he's like, "Hey, you want a beer?" And I'm like, "Not that one."
Yeah. Right. Have you tried Double Two Hearted?
I have, and I like that one better.
Yeah, that one's less hop in your face and
yes.
It's a lot sweeter. It's so good too.
So I just think that's funny that he's like,
Yeah.
"You're the beer girl," and I'm like, "That doesn't mean I have to like every beer."
That's right.
You know,
Yeah,
I love
exactly.
lots of stuff from Bell's, so
Yeah,
don't think I hate Bell's because of it. I just am not a fan of Two Hearted.
right. Which is a shame because that's the one that's going to be on tap everywhere.
Everywhere.
It's like Spotted Cow is on tap everywhere in Wisconsin, and that's
Yeah, but
not
how
my
can you
favorite
not
beer
like
from them.
Spotted Cow? But it's not your favorite beer by them, but it's not a
Right.
bad beer. Well,
No,
Two Hearted's not a bad beer either, so I guess I can't say that.
right.
By any means, it's not a bad beer.
Yeah, and I've had Spotted Cow plenty, so I probably want something else anyway.
Right. There was one when I was in Louisiana. Parish Brewing had one that was all over the place, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, they have so many better beers. Why is this the one that everybody's drinking?"
Right.
But it again, not a bad beer.
Right. And apparently the kegs just get everywhere.
Yes.
Wendy, we are coming up on an hour.
All
So
right.
let's start wrapping this up. Do you have anything coming up that you want to plug or talk about? I ask you right as you have to cough.
Oh, this weather is just killing me with my sinuses. What do I have coming up? I've really not got a lot, actually.
Nice. That's okay too.
So I
Especially
did get to get out last night with the Detroit Draft Divas, and we went to Rochester Mills Brewing.
Oh yeah.
And I had a Cloudy McClouderson, which is their hazy IPA. I'm not going to lie. I specifically purchased it because of the name. I didn't even look at anything else on the board. I was like, "What is that?" And she said, "It's a hazy." And I said, "Is it good?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "Then I'll take that."
There you go.
I mean, I would hope she would tell me if it's not going to be good, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't either if I was a waitress.
Yeah, I've had plenty who will tell me it's not their favorite, and push me away to something else, and that's fine.
Yeah. But I've also had their Old and Bitter, which is an old ale and a ESB mixed.
Okay.
It was delicious. That was fantastic.
Nice. Yeah, I haven't been there for so long. It's a shame.
We all got dessert and walked out in a sugar coma. So if you're going to Rochester Mills, save room for dessert because it's fantastic.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever had dessert. No, the brownie, I think, is what I got.
Was it the blondie?
It might have been a blondie.
It's
been so many years.
Yeah, that's what I had last night. It was phenomenal. I can't speak enough for it. I was literally like this the whole way home. Because it's like an hour for me. It's not a close drive. It's an hour for me in good weather. And then you put the snows on top of it. I was like, the whole way home, I was like this. Because all the sugar.
The sugar dinners.
It was totally worth it, though. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
What do you got going
on? I have Winterfest coming up. So Indiana Brewers Guild Winterfest. I know I have mentioned it before. It is one of my favorite festivals. It is indoors. It is at the Indiana State Fairgrounds in one of the livestock barns, which is kind of fun. Concrete floor, roof, everything. It's heated. But then it's, I don't know, I'm just going to say 60 breweries. I have no idea, but it's in that order of magnitude, at least. All or almost all in Indiana. So it's a great way it's like 5 hours to drive top to bottom in Indiana, maybe 6 hours if you include the whole tail. So it could be a long way to get to a lot of these breweries. And this is just a nice thing where a bunch of them come in and you can try them all out. So I look forward to that. We have a big group coming. One of my drinking friends from New York is flying in for it because he wants to tick all the unique beers, and there's so many breweries he'll never see out there. So I'm not sure what I'm dressing up as yet. I'll be something. But that is coming up. I'm really excited about that one. We're putting together a beer bus with my friend group. We're looking at March or April now. It was originally going to be January, but I think March or April might make more sense. So those are always fun.
Yeah, I'm thinking about all the snow out there right now. I'm like, I don't want to do a beer bus right now.
No, we have
I
done beer
would.
bus in the cold.
So we do have Michigan Brewers Guild put out their event calendar, and their Winterfest is on Saturday, February 28th. And that is at the LMCU ballpark in Comstock Park. So just outside of Grand Rapids.
Okay, excellent.
That was always a fun festival. I don't do cold anymore, though, now that I'm old.
Yeah, well, like I said, Winterfest is inside, so that part's nice.
Ours is outside.
Yeah. Frigid Digits. We talked to Indiana on Tap about that. Frigid Digits is coming up. It's like a week or two after Winterfest. That one is outside. That one does get cold.
I don't know if you've been following it all online, that Josh and Jace, the Brits who travel America,
no,
they do all this post about the difference between Britain and America, and they came and visited. I think like 2 years ago, they came and did a trip where they went to a bunch of different places, and they came back to Michigan 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
So my news feed is like going crazy with all of their stuff. My friends are posting about it. Every time they post, I see 5 to 10 of my friends posting on their post. Like, it's crazy. Like, it's a big deal. And we broke them. One of them has a cold, and the other one ended up in the hospital after a sledding and snowing incident. We're not sure what exactly broke him, if it was the sledding. I think he was actually tubing, not sledding. But he was doing it at Boyne Mountain. Like, he was tubing down a mountain.
Yeah.
not just the hill at Hines Park, you know?
Yeah, not just a tubing hill.
So, yeah. We broke them. But they're pushing on through. They're in the UP right now for their minus double-digit weather and snowstorm that's coming up. So
they wanted to experience a real winter, I guess.
Oh, yeah, we're giving it to them.
Oh, man. Those poor guys. Too bad.
Nope. They seem to be enjoying it.
Okay.
You know, and Michigan, we'll take care of them while they're here.
Right. Yes. We have a show scheduled on February 13th, where we will talk to Steve from Design Opa. They
awesome.
Design breweries and tap rooms and things. So that, I think, is going to be a lot of fun. And that is, I think, the last of the news for Better on Draft right now. We do have shows scheduled in March. We're looking at a couple other shows and getting them into slots. So, we've got stuff coming.
Stuff coming. That's
always
the one that we know
about. And you can always find out what that stuff is later as we announce it and post things on betterondraft.com or our social medias. We are Better on Draft everywhere. I don't think I say that enough in these shows, so we got to get that in. And then with that, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up and say, whatever you think of your beer, we think it's Better on Draft.
Cheers.